Economic forecasts from the World Economic Forum and McKinsey suggest a sharp divergence is coming. By 2030, 33% of physiotherapists relying strictly on manual practice face potential obsolescence, as 47% of routine assessment tasks become fully automatable. Early adopters of these technologies are currently positioned for a five-fold increase in earnings potential compared to their manual-only counterparts. Clinical dominance in the coming decade belongs to the practitioners who integrate these tools, effectively displacing those who remain tethered to traditional observation. Relying exclusively on plastic goniometers and paper notes to track complex biomechanics has ceased to be a viable long-term business strategy. This shift is currently restructuring the sports rehabilitation market through digital infrastructure that is operational today. Transitioning to digital data streams secures the economic viability of a practice, providing the financial stability required to maintain a high-quality human touch. Thriving in this environment requires a clinic-wide transition from manual observation to an integrated AI operating system. The KARLOS method organizes this transition into 6 distinct layers of clinical operation. This framework ingests raw patient movement data and maps it to specific clinical reasoning paths and longitudinal load tracking. Our immediate focus is the deconstruction of the 3 foundational layers: kinetic intelligence, adaptive rehabilitation, and real-time monitoring. Mastering these layers fundamentally shifts the clinician's role from a manual data gatherer to a strategic systems operator. Kinetic intelligence refers to the automated extraction of objective movement data, removing the reliance on subjective visual estimates. During a standard assessment, the human eye is constrained by a biological processing limit, accurately tracking a maximum of 3 moving joints simultaneously. This bottleneck makes it impossible to quantify angular velocity and contributes to inter-rater disagreement rates as high as 60% between clinicians. AI pose estimation bypasses these visual limitations. A machine vision model tracks 33 distinct anatomical key points simultaneously, providing reproducible results within 1/10 of a degree of accuracy. This creates a detailed data trail for complex metrics like joint jerk and symmetry, which are generated instantly for clinical review. In a clinical setting, this only requires a 10 to 15-second lateral smartphone video of the patient's gait. Tools like Google's MediaPipe or Sports2D process this video without the need for the marker suits or multi-camera arrays found in research labs. The system outputs a 33-point pose estimation map and symmetry scores, allowing the physio to verify the findings immediately. Kinetic intelligence converts biomechanical assessment from a subjective art into a quantifiable, reproducible data science. Layer 2, adaptive rehabilitation, addresses the challenge of operationalizing this objective kinetic data. Standard, photocopied 6-week protocols are often too rigid to account for individual healing rates. Assigning the same generic progression to a 22-year-old athlete and a 55-year-old office worker ignores the vast differences in their physiological recovery profiles. Large language models act as the synthesis layer required to build truly personalized rehab plans. These engines process kinetic data, FMS scores, and patient history to formulate a specific data-backed recovery strategy. This synthesis, which takes hours to perform manually, is completed by the system in under 90 seconds. The output is a phased 12-week protocol featuring specific, tailored progression gates that ensure the patient is physically prepared for the next stage. The plan auto-adjusts based on weekly check-ins and video form checks, maintaining a responsive approach to the patient's progress. While paper printouts typically see 30% adherence, these AI-adapted, responsive plans can push patient compliance toward 85%. Adaptive rehab ensures the recovery plan evolves in direct response to the way the patient's tissue actually adapts. Real-time monitoring addresses the geographical and temporal limitations of the clinic-based model. Most practitioners only see their patients for about an hour a week, representing 4% of their total time. This creates a 23-hour daily blind spot, where the life stressors and movement compensations that drive re-injury actually occur. Historically, continuous load monitoring was locked behind the massive costs of professional sports science labs. Recent cost collapses have placed lab-grade telemetry on the wrists of everyday consumers. This provides the clinician with passive data streams for heart rate variability, overnight sleep quality, and resting heart rate. These metrics allow the physio to track recovery readiness and flag overtraining loads before they lead to a soft tissue injury. Wearable sensors can also track home exercise quality, monitoring joint range of motion remotely. All of this longitudinal data flows securely back to a centralized clinical dashboard for the practitioner to review. Real-time monitoring shifts the clinical model from reactive, appointment-based visits to a state of continuous predictive care. The final workflow convergence occurs when all three layers interact simultaneously. A single patient assessment generates a massive volume of raw data, from kinematic wireframes to wearables heart rate telemetry. Attempting to manually correlate this data for every patient would consume the majority of a clinician's working day. The AI synthesis engine handles the low-level data extraction and draft generation instantly. This results in a 14-section consolidated clinical report prepped for professional verification. The AI performs the heavy lifting of data correlation, so the human practitioner can focus on high-level reasoning. In this augmented environment, the role of the physiotherapist is elevated. You are no longer required to be a manual drafter of basic exercise sheets or a visual estimator of joint angles. Your value is redefined as the strategic editor and the final authority over the machine's output. This system compresses 4 hours of traditional manual assessment and note-taking into 20 minutes of high-value strategic editing and direct, meaningful interaction with the patient. An AI can identify a 3-degree symmetry deficit in a gait cycle, but it cannot sense the psychological hesitation in a patient's first post-surgical steps or account for the complex social barriers to their recovery. The machine provides the structured data, but the clinician provides the irreplaceable judgment.